elevations and facades, roofs, columns, brackets and windows, stairways, sills and frames, are all pieces that come together to make a whole, a building. From mills to schools, apartment and commercial blocks, theaters to community centers, it is our buildings that speak to who and what our communities are and where they have been. The history of our neighborhoods, state, and even our country is captured in the bricks and mortar of our buildings. Unfortunately, not all of our buildings or their histories survive. As time marches on, new trends emerge, and the unfortunate tale of decaying and neglected buildings in older neighborhoods gets played out time and time again. We are left with the question, how do we save these valuable and useful historic buildings? Historic preservation is rooted in the very act of saving a neglected building, with the Mount Vernon Ladies Association formed in 1853 to save George Washington's home from the shadow it had become. Many preservation groups were founded on the same principle, rallying around the challenge of how to save and find a new use for historic buildings that were important parts of their community. Many years later, these challenges still exist. In 2002, Preservation Massachusetts convened the Massachusetts Preservation Coalition, comprised of organizations and agencies involved with preservation efforts in our Commonwealth. They asked themselves one question: what could help advance and motivate preservation in Massachusetts? The answer was unanimous: a state historic tax credit program. Combined with the federal historic tax credit, other states had successfully adopted state programs, such as Maryland and Missouri. With such an abundance of historic buildings, such a program could have a resounding benefit for preservation efforts in Massachusetts. The idea may have sounded impossible at the time, but many felt strongly that it was worth pursuing. Soon, language was drafted, a legislative consultant contracted, and visits to Beacon Hill were being made. The coalition sought alliances within the development community, a partnership that proved to be invaluable as advocacy efforts progressed. Then, in late 2003, the coalition's legislation was included as part of an economic stimulus package that was signed into law by Governor Romney. The Massachusetts Historic Rehabilitation Tax Credit Program was a reality. Since then, Preservation Massachusetts, along with many important partners, has continued to promote the tax credit program as a valuable tool for preservation projects and economic development. We have seen the program grow in popularity and seen its use spread throughout our mid-sized gateway cities and heralded as an important part to their community revitalization. And during challenging economic times, we saw the credit provide much-needed support to projects that were creating jobs, tax revenue, and investment when there were few resources. The true measure of the Massachusetts Historic Rehabilitation Tax Credit success is not found within a spreadsheet nor quantified in an economic review. That true measure is found in the buildings that were redeveloped and are now seeing vibrant new use as quality housing, community centers, performing arts venues, office space, and more. It is in the communities seeing further investment, the jobs that were created, and the teams that made it all possible. Tonight we gather to celebrate and honor that success with the 2012 Paul E. Tsongas Awards. Tonight's awardees have utilized the tax credit program to revitalize communities, spur investment, create jobs, and enhance our collective quality of life. Preservation Massachusetts is honored to recognize these projects, their dedicated team members, and the importance of the state historic tax credit. The words rehabilitation and adaptive reuse often conjure up images of large mill complexes that attracted a lot of development in the 1970s and 80s. As the Massachusetts Historic Rehabilitation Tax Credit Program was designed to work in conjunction with the federal tax credit, these mill complexes presented even more opportunity for their communities and the developers undertaking the projects. In Lawrence, Washington Mills was born of a community vision to reactivate a declining mill district, and it was the first to be executed under the Rivivendo Gateway Initiative, a tool that sought to encourage housing and mixed use in an area of stunning but largely vacant mill buildings. According to the Architectural Heritage Foundation, the state tax credit program was absolutely critical to the success of the project, which was a collaboration between so many dedicated and passionate people. Now, over 230 residents call this historic mill home and have given an active vibrance and sense of possibility to the community. In Lowell, the Mill City, the Lofts at Perkins Park took two buildings at the former Lawrence Mills complex that had been abandoned for over 20 years and turned them into quality housing and reconnected the complex to the surrounding community. The impact of the state historic tax credit was critical, as their work began at the start of a drastic economic decline. And without the benefit of state and federal tax credits, the project, carried out by Mira Development and their team, would have been infeasible. Also in Lowell, the redevelopment of the Appleton Mills complex has served as a major catalyst for further community and economic development. The mills, developed by Trinity Financial, include 130 units of affordable housing with a focus on artists and other creative professionals who have helped establish Lowell as a flourishing arts destination. The project, which would not have been feasible without the state credit, has sparked over $8 million in investment in the surrounding area. Here, the credit has helped create an amazing touchstone of Lowell's rich past and its creative and dynamic future. At Hamel Mills in Haverhill, the credit provided Forest City with the opportunity to invest in an architecturally significant and substantial development while leveraging a public-private partnership. The conversion of the former shoe factory into rental housing created 300 construction jobs and 7 permanent jobs. The impact the project has had on the local community is nothing short of astonishing, as Haverhill is experiencing a renaissance that the team is proud to have been a part of. The former Charles Hayes Mill building was once a blighted and vacant part of Haverhill's downtown, but the Public Office for Urban Affairs, a part of the Archdiocese of Boston, has turned it into the Hayes at Railroad Square, providing quality workforce housing, downtown revitalization, and preservation, while creating 158 jobs. The Hayes project preserves not only a historic asset for the community, but it also provides for those in need. Rehabilitating an historic structure for new use requires a lot of creativity and ingenuity. Projects like the Liberty Hotel show how the old can be made new again. The former Suffolk County Jail was completely transformed when it was incorporated into the Liberty Hotel. The original jail portion was designed in 1848 and is a definitive example of a more enlightened 19th century view towards the treatment of incarcerated prisoners. The historic jail portion was restored to house restaurants and the hotel lobby, allowing the public to experience the historic space that housed some of Boston's most notorious criminals until 1990. Continuing along the incarceration trend, the former Salem jail sat vacant and deteriorating, and was a preservation and development quandary for years. Using the state historic tax credit, the New Boston Ventures Group created a mixed-use development, with housing in both the historic jail and jailkeeper's house. A restaurant also provides public access to the site while retaining an important piece of Salem's history. And who can doubt the historic significance of Fenway Park? Celebrating its 100th anniversary this year, the State Historic Credit allowed for the restoration of many of the park's historic features, including the original front office facades along Yawkey Way and Brookline Avenue. The dedication of the ownership to the park and its undeniable status in baseball and the history books has shown in their stewardship to America's most beloved ballpark, now on the National Register of Historic Places. Located in Boston's Fort Point Channel neighborhood, the Dwinelle Wright Company building originally housed a coffee manufacturing enterprise. When the architectural firm Ad Inc. decided to relocate their offices, the building was underutilized. The credit provided crucial funding that allowed for the building's transformation into offices, retail, and commercial space. It preserved a key piece of the Summer Street streetscape and contributes to the vitality that is emerging in the Fort Point Channel community. Set in parkland along the Charles River, Waltham's Watch Factory is a campus that has grown and changed over time. Under the direction of Berkeley Investment, and with the help of the Historic Tax Credit, this extremely significant group of buildings has been transformed into residential apartments, fully leased commercial space, revived exterior courts, and a public museum dedicated to the history of the American Watch Company. As the state historic tax credit began to garner a track record, projects began to apply from all across the state. From its initial clustered beginnings in eastern Mass, projects from the South Coast, Worcester County, Franklin County, and Springfield began to apply and get underway as a result of the credit program. Springfield, the city of homes, has seen the credit used to the advantage of its amazing historic building stock. At City View Commons, First Resource Companies used the credit to rehabilitate and restore 4 early 20th century apartment buildings, returning them to their former handsome appearances. The investment, combined with a professional management system, marks a significant investment in a challenging neighborhood, provides quality affordable housing, and has helped spur further investment in the city. Union Street Lofts is a group of 5 turn-of-the-century buildings in downtown New Bedford. The project has turned these underutilized buildings at the very heart of the downtown into mixed-income housing, commercial, and artist live-work space. The collaborative and dedicated effort between Hall Keene and local partner Whale resulted in a successful project, but it would not have been possible without the state historic tax credit. Now the buildings are once again active, utilized, and contributing to the growing vitality within the city's downtown neighborhood. The Lancaster Mills specialized in carpets and was a major factor in the growth of Clinton during the 19th century. But when the partially vacant complex became the subject of a proposed demolition, opportunity beckoned. Star Development Partners rehabilitated the mill and created over 130 units of market-rate housing, as well as commercial and office space. With the mill so integrally tied to the founding and early growth of the town, it is wonderful that such an important piece of Clinton's history is vibrant and active once again. Athol's former high school was converted into 50 units of affordable housing for active adults by Stratford Capital Group and their team. The reuse of the Art Deco 1915 school provided much-needed affordable housing to the retirement community while preserving an important part of Athol's history. It also demonstrates a viable and great reuse for our historic school buildings. Sharon's Wilbur School, built in 1921, stood in disrepair for nearly 30 years, until a collaborative effort between Beacon Communities, the town, residents, and boards brought about its restoration. Now it stands as 75 units of high-quality housing that is already having a positive impact on the revitalization of Sharon's Post Office Square. The ability of this project to finally come to fruition is a prime example of how the credit can work and public-private partnerships can be successful. In Worcester, a former envelope factory and furniture showroom received a new lease on life when Wind Development created Canal Lofts in the city's growing canal district. The state historic credit was a critical component to the success of the mixed-income housing development, making the project feasible and allowing for the leveraging of other private and public funds for housing creation, job creation, and neighborhood revitalization. The circa 1866 Linwood Mill has also benefited from the historic tax credit program. The project at this amazingly intact cotton mill utilized 8 different public and private sources of capital, the first being a state historic credit allocation. This is seen by developer E.A. Fish as a testament to the truly catalytic nature of the program. The resulting units of quality elderly housing only came about because of the teamwork of all players and the critical support of the State Historic Credit Program. The Clark Biscuit Factory in North Adams was a blighted detriment to the downtown until Arch Street Development undertook its restoration into 43 units of quality rental housing. The factory had stood vacant since the 1990s, and without the credit, the project would not have been able to succeed. Now it stands as a great addition to the community, providing great accommodations, and is a testament to the positive impact preservation has on communities, both large and small. Greenfield saw a surge of tax credit projects within their downtown. The credit allowed the restoration of the Allen, Pond, and Ciano blocks to move forward, turning 3 derelict buildings into space for 5 vibrant local businesses, 4 offices, and 6 residents. It also created 35 jobs. The project conveys a sense of what is now possible in the heart of Greenfield. Also in the heart of Greenfield are the Arts Block and Franklin Savings Bank. The elaborately detailed Classical Revival Bank building was restored to house an art gallery and performance space, while the Arms Block is a mix of office, commercial, mercantile, and gallery space. The credit represents possibility and potential, especially in challenged communities across the state. With Curtin Lofts in the old Wampanoag Mill Complex in Fall River, Wind Development utilized the credit to create quality mixed-income housing, while at the same time preserving one of the city's numerous mills. As the first successful historic tax credit project in the city, several others have followed suit, demonstrating the catalytic impact these now financially viable projects have on their communities. Large-scale and high-profile projects aside, the State Historic Credit has also found success with smaller projects and found they can have just as great an impact as a large mill conversion. As the oldest firehouse in Boston, the Eustis Street Firehouse dates to 1859 and marks the urbanization of Roxbury and the rise of public sector services. Utilized as a firehouse until 1916, the building sat vacant and boarded up, a blight on the Dudley Square area. Historic Boston Incorporated's proposal to rehabilitate the firehouse into commercial, office, and community space was chosen by the city, and the results more than speak for themselves. The credit was hugely important to this small-scale but big-impact project that is now the new offices of HBI. In scenic Stockbridge, the 240-year-old Red Lion Inn is a huge tourist draw and income generator for the town. Their major renovations in 2006 would not have been possible without the State Historic Credit, and preservation is and remains a critical factor in the core values of their business, run by the Fitzpatrick family. The collaborative effort with their team has ensured the Red Lion Inn will remain a fixture of the town's center, drawing more guests for years to come. The credit allowed Perkins School for the Blind to put more resources into educational opportunities, more independence, and more safety for their students and staff with the restoration of the lower school building. The project combined preservation, adjusting to meet the needs of visually impaired students and others with special needs. Just as the lower school was state-of-the-art 100 years ago, today it can claim the same while preserving its historic character. The restoration of New Bedford's Coggeshall Counting House took a former bar, warehouse, and office building, and turned it into an opportunity for members of the community to experience the environment. Rehabilitated by the nonprofit Coalition to Save Buzzards Bay, the former counting house is now their headquarters and educational center that utilizes green technology and energy-efficient design. It is now another draw into the city's downtown and serves as an example of how the credit has been an asset to the nonprofit community. Located adjacent to a busy neighborhood playground, the Philip Monroe House was an eyesore on one of Cambridge's more historic streets. The rehabilitation by Capstone Communities brought the house back to life in a manner that honors and respects its architectural features. Without the State Historic Credit and its tremendous impact on small projects, the Monroe House could never have been restored with the care and attention it deserved. In downtown Lee, the Bard and Benton block was restored to house a unique educational facility, the College Internship Program, a post-secondary school that caters to young adults with Asperger's, high-functioning autism, and other learning differences. It provides them with the social, academic, and life skills necessary for success. The historic commercial block was transformed into their educational and office space, creating 9 jobs. The building has a new and vibrant use while giving back to the community. Whether it is studying a spreadsheet of project data, counting jobs created, or viewing the dramatic before and after pictures, the conclusion is the same. The Massachusetts Historic Rehabilitation Tax Credit Program works. It is a vital tool for the preservation, restoration, and revitalization of our Commonwealth. And as all of our award recipients this evening will tell you, their successful projects would not have been possible if it were not for the credit. The great work being honored this evening is being continued each and every day by future projects seeking to use this important program, rehabilitate historic buildings, revitalize our communities, create jobs, and a better economy for all. 10 years ago, the idea of a state historic tax credit program may have seemed like a far-off dream. But here we sit, celebrating the great work that it has accomplished and looking ahead to the many deserving projects that still need the state historic credit. As usual with preservation, there is more work to be done, and Preservation Massachusetts continues our dedicated efforts to ensuring that the state historic credit remains a vibrant, effective, and substantial program that professionals can count on to make their projects a reality. We thank you all for your support and ask that you join us in helping to advocate for the State Historic Credit and celebrate the benefit it brings to us all. Thank you, and congratulations to the 2012 Paul E. Tsongas Award winners, and good night.